recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
What's up, you pencil neck geeks? Welcome to the WrestleFetish Podcast. This is your boy, the Dark Architect, speaking. We're going to be working the jaw for you today, and I'm not going to do it alone. I got my girl, Miss Annie fucking Cruz in the building. I should
hello.
I should say our new, current, reigning, defending, dominating, goddamn predictions champion, Annie Cruz, actually.
I didn't even realize that I have won again.
Oh, enough with the bullshit. She gets a perfect, clean sweep of picks. She's just nonchalant about it. Oh, I didn't even know I was the champion. This is some bullshit. Speaking of bullshit, my friend and yours, the jabroni, Josh Martin. What's up, my man?
Wait, you didn't get my email?
What email?
I sent you an email with my intro description. I want a Kenny Omega intro where it goes on for like 5 minutes long, just giving everything I've done. Like I won first place in a science fair in 5th grade, stuff like that, you know?
Here's the problem. You have to have done things that are real in order for me to give.
It doesn't matter. I watched AEW last night. Half of that description, I feel like it's completely made up.
But it's not.
My name is Ishmael. Sorry.
And he should make it longer. It's not long enough. It needs to be longer.
That I do agree with. I feel like he could definitely milk that for quite a bit more. Which I'm sure we'll see as he starts collecting belts, if that storyline actually starts to fucking happen. But they are having the match at the next Impact pay-per-view. You gonna watch? Rich Swann versus Omega?
I'm not gonna watch that, but if Kenny Omega wants to collect a shirt, I have a full box of them. You can have one of these shirts.
Like Kenny Omega.
Yeah, Kenny Omega can walk to the ring in one of my t-shirts.
We might be able to make that happen. I got some connects to Kenny. We'll see what happens. Before we get started, I want to actually give a shout out to one of our new patrons on Patreon, Mr. Patrick Burkhart. Thank you so much for being a patron, getting all that exclusive content on www.patreon.com/WrestleFetish. He's enjoying the weekly show where we do our weekly reviews and responses to all things in the week of wrestling, because that's not what we do here on the podcast for free anymore. But so thank you so much, Patrick. But before we get into our topic today, we will indeed give our highlights of the week. A lot of stuff stemming from Fastlane 2021 in WWE. A lot of stuff coming from the New Japan Cup. A lot of stuff coming from Impact, AEW, everything. So much wrestling going on, as always, it seems like during Mania season. Josh, what is your highlight of the week?
It's between two things. It has to be between the Daniel Bryan Roman Reigns match during Fastlane, which was fucking great. I loved every fucking second of it. The end was whatever, but I think it's fucking great. Roman Reigns doing a Boston Crab is something I never thought I would ever see him do ever.
Yeah,
that's more than, so he officially knows more than 2 moves right now, which is exciting. It's between that and the entire Devlin versus what's his name on NXT, the NXT champion, Phantasma.
Santos Escobar?
Oh yeah, Santos Escobar. That moment was fucking great with Shawn Michaels coming out, because there's a lot of rumor. There's a lot of talk. The two of them are a lot like Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon. And so Shawn Michaels coming out and throwing a ladder in the ring, it sent chills. I fucking loved it. It was fucking great. NXT was amazing. And yeah.
I gotta give you snaps for being so NXT dedicated. Like
Where do
usually,
you watch it?
I mean, I watch it, but I don't watch it live. It's tough for me to watch live. When AEW is happening, it's just like I can't. It's tough to choose that. To choose a developmental league, even though NXT is so much more than a developmental league at this point. But it's so hard to choose it week in and week out over AEW Live for me. But
The
I'm not
way
gonna say they don't do great shows. They do.
the way that NXT is doing it, and for Stand and Deliver, NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver, I think that might be better than most AEW pay-per-views. The way it's looking right now, because the card is looking fucking crazy good right now.
I mean, it's debatable. Annie, what's
Yes.
your highlight of the week?
Yeah, I almost forgot that Fastlane happened until Josh mentioned that Roman match, because I feel like that was the only good thing to come from that pay-per-view was that Roman Daniel Bryan match. I pleasantly was surprised with it. I would probably have to say it's between that and Britt Baker's promo on AEW last night. You know, I never was a fan of Britt Baker, never really cared for her. Didn't dislike her. I just never really cared for her until that Thunder Rosa match that she had. Then I was like, okay, respect. You know what I mean? And when she did that promo last night, I was like, okay, she's got really good mic skills too. So I would go between those two as my highlights for this week in wrestling.
Yeah, I would have to say, I mean, shit, I was not familiar with her at all before AEW, so I didn't have a whole lot of expectation for her. I know they were kind of trying to play her up as somewhat of a baby face at first. Then she turned heel and then just started cutting these incredible fucking promos. You know, we can forget about the dentist office match she had with Big Swole and all that. That was horrible.
Right.
But just her work, especially when she got injured and kind of had to keep the character alive through nothing but promos, and then having this match against fucking Thunder Rosa and calling out Mick Foley, saying that it took 20 years to get
20 years.
Took her just a night. Then Mick Foley responds on his Twitter that I gotta be honest, or those comments stung a little bit. I mean, I'm just, yeah, she's doing some fucking great work. Very strange that Thunder Rosa herself wasn't on this week's Dynamite.
Yeah, I was actually kind of expecting to see her on there as well.
But, she's contracted still to the NWA, and I guess they just did some tapings. They just had their pay-per-view back for the Attack this past weekend as well. So now they're back in the mix. I guess Powers will return on YouTube very soon. So she's a busy gal. And of course, she's been very busy in my fantasies recently. You think she keeps half the face paint on? Never mind. I guess my highlight of the week would probably be Will Ospreay winning the fucking New Japan Cup, because, good Lord, that means we're getting Ibushi versus Will Ospreay for the goddamn IWGP World Heavyweight title now that they've merged the belts. That's going to be some good shit. You want to talk about good wrestling? What's going to be better than that match?
Everything.
You're not a Will Ospreay fan? Seriously?
I don't know how you keep up with it. For me, it's hard for me to watch New Japan now because they lost all the people I cared about, I feel like.
What do you mean? Naito's there. Okada's there. Fucking Evil's there. The goddamn God is there. Fucking Takagi's there.
Who?
Jeff Cobb is there. There's so many people.
Yeah, Jeff Cobb. You're gonna use that name to sell New Japan to me?
You were a Jeff Cobb fan at PWG?
No, it wasn't.
Oh my God.
Dude,
this revisionist history from Josh sometimes is hilarious.
New Japan is not that far from Impact Wrestling right now, in my book.
You're crazy and out of your mind. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. There's gonna be some good fucking wrestling coming up. And then we got we got a, we got a little bit of good wrestling, in my opinion, at WWE Fastlane 2021. I mean, we'll go into detail in the Patreon episode, patreon.com/WrestleFetish. But one thing that was glaringly obvious to me, and this is not news, this is not something that all of a sudden is happening in WWE, but one of the biggest problems that I could identify was just the way they book baby faces. I feel like we're in a zone where not just even WWE, in all of wrestling, we are just heel dominant. I think that maybe the backlash that started with the tail end of like Hulkamania in 1993, where people were really just starting to turn against the super baby face model that so many companies were banking on at the time. And then it became cooler to cheer for the bad guys. And then especially when the NWO took off and people were way into the NWO, I would even say that Hart Foundation in 1996 played a role because they were heroes abroad, even though they were heels in the United States. That the everything has just become so heel oriented. It just and then even more so when WWE brought in these heel authority figures over and over again and keep going back to that well. It's just like, has the art of the babyface been lost in wrestling? Like, what do you think, in your opinion, makes a good babyface in general these days in wrestling? Josh, I'm actually interested in you because I never really hear you cheer for faces ever.
Oh, I'm not a face guy, I don't know, like a good baby face right now is just, I think good baby faces are great wrestlers. I associate, for some reason, I associate like people who are physically good in the ring as great baby faces. Because I guess I associate heels as guys who can't wrestle that well, so they have to cheat or do something weird to win stuff. Even though that's not accurate at all.
Well, it's interesting you say that because back in the day, one of the things that got people over as baby faces was purely just their in-ring work. Like if you could outwork the other guy, you generally started getting respect from the crowd. And conversely, traditionally, the guy who called the match in the ring was the heel. If you were the heel, you were kind of in charge of all the beats of the match. That sort of changed when the whole idea of the work rate became less important with guys like Hulk Hogan, where it's like, he's coming out there and he's going to give you he's going to sell the whole time and not really do the ring work. And then that's what became important. The selling, not necessarily the fucking, the moves and such.
Yeah, I think I always saw it as that. But I think it's just I think just the change in society has made us care. I think for me personally, I used to love faces as a kid. All my favorite wrestlers were faces. I fucking love faces. That's why I love the Bushwhackers. That's why I love Bret Hart. I was a huge Bret Hart guy because I love face. I've always loved faces. And so I see that as like society has changed. I think like back in the 80s, early 90s, people were more like willing to put in the work and help people out. And compared to nowadays, more people are willing to cheat or try to play the system to get ahead. So that's why I think that's why the attention is more on creating great heels now. Because that's just what society is like, in trying to cheat or lie to be on top.
What are your thoughts on this, Annie? Do you think that, well, first of all, what makes a good babyface in modern wrestling, and is it sort of is it a lost art or dying notion because of how twisted society has become, basically?
It's interesting that Josh even said that too, because like, I liked Bret Hart when I was younger too. And as I've grown up to be an adult, I feel like maybe it is a societal thing versus a taste thing, I guess, because it's like, like just as an example, growing up on like Disney stuff, you know what I mean? You always like the fairy tale princesses. And as I've gotten older, I'm all about the villains, you know what I mean? Which is kind of like in the same sense with wrestling. Now I'm like, I find myself cheering for the heels all the time, you know what I mean? Whether or not they're cheating. And to Josh's point about whether or not heels are more of the ones that like, they're not that great of wrestlers, but that's not actually accurate, but will tend, I think they more or less will find ways to cheat or do things that are like against the rules, quote unquote, right? And I feel like back in the day, traditionally a baby face is like, obviously the protagonist, whereas the heel is the antagonist in the situation. And the baby face follows the rules, right? But also, to Josh's point as well, as I also agree with, is a good technical wrestler in the ring. And I feel like now, if we're talking about modern day baby faces, I feel like it's still kind of the same thing as it was back then, but I feel like there's more. I don't know if I want to say more of a, like, do you want to root for the more heroic person in the ring or not? I don't know. I feel like it's kind of the same. I don't know how to answer the question of why they keep. I guess I kind of sort of agree with Josh on that though, with the whole societal thing on why they just keep trying to create better heels. I don't know. It's interesting because I can only speak for myself on how I went from liking baby faces to now being, older, and not that that has anything to do with anything, but just looking at my tastes over the years, you know what I mean? And how I'm always
Yeah,
constantly rooting for the villain. I like rooting for the bad guy,
gotten darker, gotten darker.
Yep.
And I would argue that that's just it. I think that modern baby faces are booked in such a way that they have no edge to them. That they are just like these vanilla, happy, smiley, like idiots kind of too. They constantly fall into traps. They don't
Like they're
help each
gullible.
other out anymore. Like when there's a babyface beat down, the locker room doesn't clear and come help them as much as they used to. There's just certain tropes about booking a babyface strong that just isn't really done, it seems, anymore. And that's what like I kept noticing at Fastlane. Like we talked about the Roman Reigns Daniel Bryan match. I'm like, Daniel Bryan is somebody who, like, I mean, they've just beaten him like they stole something. You know what I'm saying? Since in the last few months, he lost clean to Nakamura. He lost clean to Cesaro. He lost clean to so many people in the past few months.
Right.
He then he wins the fucking chamber, gets the floor wiped with him by Roman Reigns, and then it's like, okay, now we have this match, and he's still able to get us so invested in what's going on, but then he loses again. And now he's in the championship match at WrestleMania in a three-way. So, and it's like, I mean, how am I supposed to be invested in that guy when this is the lead up to like to his journey? You know what I'm saying? And it's not
Yeah.
like he's been just screwed over and over and over again. I've watched him get his shoulders pinned to the mat 1, 2, 3 on the way to this, but yet now I'm supposed to believe he just shook that off, and all of a sudden he's going to overcome the odds. It's a tough sell.
This is my issue with, like, for example, concerning WWE main roster, there is a couple baby faces that have edge because it seems like they have a plan. Like Daniel Bryan has edge. Big E has edge. I think Asuka has an edge to her. You know,
Sometimes.
but I feel like it's because they have a plan for these people. I think baby faces that they don't know what they want to do with, they always fall in the trap of making them a gullible face who doesn't know. Like NXT, you have guys like Kyle O'Reilly, who's a face, but he is a face with really good edge right now that you fucking enjoy, because I think they have a vision of what they want to do with someone. When they don't have a vision of what they want to do with someone, like a Keith Lee when he came into the company and not really have any vision of what they want to do with him, then the face is kind of goofy, ends up being goofy, you know?
But even when it feels like they have a vision, they just beat them over and over again. Like the babyfaces just lose and lose and lose. Like I watched AEW Dynamite this week, right? And so we had Taya Conte versus Nyla Rose. And Taya Conte, you know, they're telling us that she's ranked #1 in the women's division because of all the wins that she's picked up on AEW Dark. And so she goes up against Nyla Rose, who beat her in the, you know, women's eliminator tournament. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, there's no way Taya wins this match. There's just no way that she wins. Like, you know, Nyla is the one with the manager and a little bit of storyline to her, and she's a heel, and they're just gonna fucking. And then it was just such a pleasant surprise when Tay got the victory, because it was like, oh, like she's okay. They're showing me that she's actually a credible, legitimate threat to Sheeta. Like she's ranked #1, but she's also picking up wins on television. Like
Right.
there's a reason to invest in her going into the match. And I think AEW is really good at this as far as like giving people winning streaks on the way to a shot. Because the other problem is babyface is supposed to overcome adversity, but when they don't even look like credible to overcoming that adversity, then the story is nonsense at that point, because it's like, okay, yeah, he made Roman Reigns tap Daniel Bryan, he did great, but again, you've shown us that there are like 6 other people who are better than Daniel Bryan on the way to that. So it's like, why isn't Cesaro in that spot? Why isn't Nakamura in that spot? All these people beat Daniel Bryan. Like why do I give a fuck at this point? Because I don't believe nothing. They've given me nothing to believe in this guy. And that's what it all is. That's ultimately what a good babyface is. Someone that you can believe in, who's going to defy the odds.
I feel like that's like a main thing.
Yeah.
What you just said right now is like, you know, like on top of being the hero, right, quote unquote, is someone that can defeat the odds. And I'll tell you what, because I just thought about it right now. It's interesting talking about all the losses that Daniel Bryan specifically, you know, him just over the past however many months, right? And all it does, because, you know, I kind of sort of root for him, right? But then he just keeps losing and he keeps losing clean. And all it does is makes me wish he was a heel. You know, like, God damn it. I miss the planet's champion. You know what I mean? That's all it does. Seeing him lose the way he has, all it does is makes me wish, man, I wish Daniel Bryan was a fucking heel again, man, because of, I guess now that the way you've explained that just now and thinking about it, I'm like, actually, that's I feel like that's how it makes me feel. I feel like that just proves a point that they're not booking baby faces well.
Like I feel a complete opposite of that. Like I'm okay with this Daniel Bryan. I think even though the losses are happening, I think this is some of Daniel Bryan's best work right now in the ring. I think he's fucking looking as good as ever right now. And I do like the fact that they're giving Daniel Bryan, making him, I think they're building him up to a better babyface than he's ever been. The entire thing of him in the ring, looking over the ropes to see if the ref was knocked out, and contemplating using a chair on Roman or not. I love that entire thing. It's just there's two different views to look at it. AEW has the view of you build a babyface by giving them wins, and slowly build them up that way. While WWE likes to get their faces take a bunch of losses where they're almost at their lowest and then overcoming being at their lowest to get ahead and get a win because they're so far low and they're overcoming being so low. But I don't know if that translates as well as getting wins, you know?
I would say historically, we know that it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's like, would they have booked Hulk Hogan like they booked in? Look at the card of Fastlane. Matt Riddle, whose whole gimmick is that he's a moron. You know what I mean?
He probably is, though.
Yeah, but he's not nearly as over as he was when he was in NXT or on the Indies, when it's like, this is a legit UFC
fighter
pedigree badass. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he left the UFC because he likes to smoke weed, and they wouldn't allow him to test positive for marijuana if he stayed. But this guy can kick your fucking ass. You know what I mean? Matt Riddle could probably beat the shit out of 90% of the roster. And what they run with is him giving business ideas to people that are stupid. That's the gimmick. Meanwhile, and then, what's so funny to me about like WWE a lot is where people are like, I mean, well, it's not serious. Don't take it. Then why is a guy like Brock Lesnar such big box office? Because he's legit. Because he's serious. Because he always gives you a big fight feel because of his pedigree. So it's like you can't have both. You can't tell me that the product is based in silliness and it doesn't matter, and then you get excited every time Brock shows up, because that's not what he's based on. That's not what makes him such a big deal. The fact that he's not silly is what makes him such a big deal. Then you go down, like I said, you go down the card, right? It's like, you know, I like what they're doing with Big E, you know what I mean? But ultimately, they had to give him a promo where he got hella serious and it got really personal between him and Apollo before people really got invested in this feud. Braun Strowman looks like a complete jackass in this feud. Does anyone care about what's happening between him and Shane, unless you were a big Double Dare fan in the 90s?
But we haven't cared about Braun Strowman for a long time. This has been 2+ years.
Based on
no one ever caring about Braun Strowman, and it's part on WWE, but it's also a lot of it is on fucking Braun Strowman. He has no personality at all. He doesn't have that aggressive, like, I'm going to fuck you up, like you associate with Brock Lesnar. You know? He doesn't have that edge at all as a heel or as a face. He never had that edge. And he never got better in the ring. And it's a shame, but this is what happens when you get certain guys that didn't start in the wrestling business to begin with.
I remember Strowman. You know, I remember Strowman when he didn't say shit and he was in the Wyatt family and he was scary as fuck. I remember when his whole gimmick was that he was beating the shit out of Roman Reigns every week. He was the hottest thing in the company when that was his gimmick. Like, he was just the whole "I'm not done with you" shit.
Is that because of Braun, or is it because we hated Roman Reigns so fucking much?
But that's really all you needed for the guy. Did Andre need a big moveset? You know what I'm saying? Did any of these huge guys need these big, expansive movesets? But what's the difference? They beat Braun Strowman on a regular basis. 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. He gets beaten and beaten and beaten. And that's most of the baby faces. But when you look at the height of the company, at any point in time, 80s with Hulk Hogan, 90s with Steve Austin and The Rock, John Cena, CM Punk. Did these dudes just take a shit ton of losses on TV? No, they never did. And they carried the company because of it. And I think that if you trace the history of pro wrestling, especially WWE, because they've always been a babyface promotion. And the reason that their decline has been so epic is because then they tried to invest in a babyface Roman Reigns who they didn't book as somebody with edge, as they didn't book as with somebody with real charisma. You know what I mean? They just kind of make him look so vanilla and so geeky and so stupid. He was saying things like suffering succotash. Like, I was just like, what?
Everybody, and I remember, like, you know, every time he would come out and he always got booed, always got booed, always got booed. He got booed as a face, still gets booed even as a heel. And even though I did say that I find myself leaning, you know, towards more so rooting for the heels, not always, but, you know, I do. I still don't like Roman Reigns.
And like it sucks that they couldn't figure it out how to make Roman Reigns a baby face that people loved. But without those years of fucking forcing this vanilla Roman Reigns on us, we would have never got this heel version of Roman would have never happened and never worked without those fucking 10 years of Roman being forced on us as a babyface.
I don't disagree with that, but you know,
this heel run would not even be close to the same without that bullshit.
But I would think that the old philosophy holds true. The hotter the babyface, the greater the heel. You know what I mean? I think Roman is an interesting case because it was just like he wasn't even the hot babyface. The company became the hot heel at that point because like we as fans were booing their decision making and it really had not that much to do with Roman. It was just like, fuck you, WWE. We don't want him as the top guy. We want Daniel Bryan as the top guy. And they kept being like, no, you want Roman. Look, he beat The Undertaker. He beat Daniel Bryan. He beat CM Punk. He beat John Cena. And it was just like, stop it. And to answer the original question personally, I think what makes a good babyface is a couple things. There's a couple different approaches. It's either somebody who can garner sympathy, and we can connect with that because we see the vulnerability.
Right.
You make a great babyface if you stop being such a piece of shit. And I think Daniel Bryan naturally has that. We feel for Daniel. There's something about him that we connect with because he's not a big guy. He's not a tall guy. He's not the one that they traditionally would back, but he's so good. You know, he could be beat forever, but every match you're invested in because he's so good. Honestly, this Fastlane performance made me reevaluate Daniel Bryan as honestly one of the greatest in-ring workers of all time. Who hasn't he gotten a good match out of? You know what I'm saying? I can't think of one wrestler Daniel Bryan hasn't gotten a good match out of. One wrestler that he hasn't made me like invest in the match he's having with. And then the way that it was just put together and the story that they told of like, yeah, Roman is bigger, badder, and stronger than me, but fuck that. I'm going to break him down body part by body part to the point where he can't deal with being in the yes lock and he's going to tap. Like, that was such a well-told story until the end when they added a hat on top of 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 a hat. But that's a whole nother thing that has nothing to do with Daniel Bryan. But I think the other approach is you have a great heel who has a change of heart. That's how you make a great babyface. Someone who connects with the audience because they're kind of a badass, but then when they switch, they don't stop being the badass. They just fight heels. They just direct the energy towards heels. Steve Austin didn't change character much when he turned babyface. He just started fighting heels. Vince McMahon, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? The Rock attitude didn't change that much. He just started fighting heels. You know, the Mick Foley at the time, Kane, heel Undertaker. You know what I mean? Like, but now when they book baby faces, they make them stop doing the things that made them popular. Keith Lee was a great example. As soon as they moved him to the main roster, oh, don't do any more high flying stuff. Don't do any more, you know, just do the typical big man, you know, blah, 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 blahs. And it just became, it's like there was nothing unique about him anymore, and I don't care anymore.
And that's and that's why I brought up Kyle O'Reilly earlier, is that's what kind of what they're doing with Kyle. Was he was part of the Undisputed Era, which was a dominant faction, but they were a bunch of heels that just were, we don't give a fuck about anyone else except ourselves. And now, during the entire thing with Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly, Kyle was the face in that feud. And even on the, I don't know if you guys watch NXT this week, but Kyle O'Reilly was entire like, hey, difference between me and you is I grew as a person. I got better as I changed. I didn't just stay a prick during the entire Undisputed Era. I decided to change and be a better person. And Kyle O'Reilly does that well. But besides that, NXT also has a problem with faces. They don't know. It's just WWE doesn't know how to do faces well anymore. And it just involves a little bit more investment. I think it's way easier to create a heel than a face.
Because they call turning someone heel giving them a personality. And it's like, you can have a personality and still be a babyface. You know what I mean? And I already gave a ton of examples of that. It's just like, nowadays when you're a babyface, either you have no personality or you have the same personality as every other babyface that's on the roster, or you're just
angry.
We're just told that you're a babyface, like The Fiend.
Oh, yeah.
I tweeted, you know, from our account, like, this guy, this crispy Cajun-style clown monster is the babyface in this fucking feud with Randy Orton. Like, just think about that for a second. This monstrosity is
a demon. He's a demon.
Yeah, he's a goddamn weird clown demon who has left creepy dolls in the Miz's children's bed. Okay, he fucking, you know, has stalked people, has played all these creepy mind games, has possessed and kidnapped Alexa Bliss.
And he has library dues. He owes money to the library.
He also technically came back from the dead, no?
Yeah. And, you know, I'm fine with that. Undertaker obviously came back from the dead.
Right.
But
sure.
It's just like, wait a minute, why am I cheering for him against Randy Orton? And they keep playing the history of them when Randy burned down his house, but it's like, yeah, but when he did that, we cheered for Randy because you were evil when he burned down your house. So that wasn't a heel move that he did. So now I'm just confused.
And apparently, I don't know if I'm right about this, Bray Wyatt is more evil now than he was when his house got burned down.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
He definitely took a turn to the worse.
You know, I don't know, man. I think that WWE must have just PTSD. They couldn't deal with the fact that people started to boo Hogan in 93. They couldn't deal with the fact that people started to boo Shawn Michaels in 96. And they're just like, wait, what? Wait, I don't understand. We're giving them a hero to rally behind. Why aren't they cheering for the hero? And it was just like, because, man, like, look, Shawn Michaels, I think, is the ultimate example, right? And look, come on. Shawn was Mr. Charisma, attitude, some accounts, he is the reason that the Attitude Era started. And when he became a babyface in '96, after beating, before the boyhood dream comes true at WrestleMania 12, and then he wins the title. After that, if you look at those Shawn Michaels promos, there's no attitude, there's no edge. It's all, I'm doing this for my fans, for the clique, and blah, blah, blah. And it is so fucking just boring. It is straight up boring. It's like, if you can turn the Heartbreak Kid boring, like, that seems to be what the natural tendency is for WWE. And, yeah, they got us Stone Cold Steve Austin. They got us The Rock. But as I've said before, I think on this podcast, if you listen to the interviews of people around at the time, Vince McMahon didn't even get that. He didn't get why people were cheering for Steve Austin. He didn't get why people had Austin 316 signs after he cut that promo. He didn't think Austin was even good enough to be a main event. Triple H was supposed to win that King of the Ring that year until the curtain call incident happened. So it's like, I don't think Vince McMahon has ever understood the babyface with edge. Like, it's just not a thing that he really understands. So, and then the same thing with Cena. When Cena was cutting promos on people and tearing them apart, he got over. Then as soon as he became a babyface, hustle, loyalty, and respect became a fucking bumper sticker. It became a slogan on a t-shirt. It had nothing to do with edge or attitude or any of that stuff. And then they started booing Cena shortly after. So,
well, that's also because of Thugonomics.
No, they loved Thugonomics.
No one loved.
Watch the tapes.
White people love Thugonomics.
Everyone loved Thugonomics. People, we're just entertained to see wiggers. We love it. Like, it's just, we're never going to be not entertained by that. Come on.
No, it was bad.
I seen I was all about.
Is that the edge you want faces to have? Is that they can spit rhymes?
Why not? Dude, the Acclaimed is making it work in 2021. Somehow they're making the battle raps that I myself, who used to do a battle rap show here in LA, got over it, a few years ago. And yet they're giving me pops every time they come out and do their thing. And that's, I'll use that to segue into other companies. We've talked about WWE so much, but like in AEW and New Japan, they're still seemingly effectively booking baby faces. You know what I'm saying? Naito is a super effective baby face. Okada, super effective baby face. AEW, Cody's a super effective baby face. Fucking John Moxley is a super effective baby face. What's the difference? They all aren't these cookie cutter. They have nuance to them. They have personality to them. They have characteristics other than, well, he does the right thing. That's not enough.
You consider Moxley a baby face?
Is he not?
I think he's a betweener. Like a tweener.
When was he ever a heel? Other than when he attacked Omega when he debuted.
I think he's just a tweener who's crazy. So because he's crazy, it's hard for me to consider someone a baby face if they're crazy. I have
contextually, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, Annie, but isn't a babyface, I mean, ultimately what distinguishes them as a babyface versus a heel is opponent based and not necessarily like their personality.
It's interesting that you're asking me that, because it's like I'm trying to think of a perfect example other than Moxley right now that you could easily be like, well, because of their personality, are they a heel or are they not a heel? And I can't really think at the top of my head at the moment, but I think it partially has to do with their opponents, but I think it depends on the what part of their personality, right? Like, Josh, what are you trying to say? You think Moxley, you think he's an in-betweener?
Yeah, I don't see him as a full face at all. I think he's crazy and he'll fight anyone.
See,
He'll
I
fight
look at
other
him as
faces
being a
and
face.
heels. It doesn't matter.
I look at it because, and I think I'm still tainted with the memory of when he was in WWE before he left, and they made him a heel, and he was just talking shit about, the WWE universe and how they smelled, and it was just awful. And I was like, someone please just kill this with fire. Do you remember that? Because that was awful.
He was ahead of the game on the gas mask, though. He wasn't wrong. We are all dirty and need to stay away from one another.
Oh yeah, when he did that whole Bane thing, I remember that now.
You can't trust pizza delivery guys.
Because whenever I think of heel Moxley, I remember heel, Dean Ambrose is what I think of when I think of him as being a heel, and I'm just like, oh, that left a really bad taste in my mouth. But like looking at him now, I would have to say I currently look at him as being a face. So I don't know if that answers your question, Chris.
I can't think of anything he's done, any actions he's done that are necessarily heel. Like Steve Austin was willing to fight whoever too. I mean, he was a babyface when he got in Mike Tyson's face for no reason.
And he just got attitude, that was his personality. Yeah.
And I think that goes back to what we're saying about the guy who just wants competition, the guy who just wants to legitimately be the best, and he'll take on all comers. Like that's what they do with Cody all the time. But then there's the Darby Allen who does the other way that I talked about, which is the sympathy guy. Darby is, I think Annie could beat the shit out of Darby Allen, but and I'd watch that match. But you root for him because of that, because he's always inherently the underdog.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, you're seeing these examples work across the pond. I don't know why WWE can't get their head out of their ass. And I think the best example that they have of somebody who can maybe pull off being an effective babyface is probably Drew McIntyre. But he's missing, which is another huge component of being a babyface, which is the audience.
Yeah, I do agree. Not having a crowd definitely takes away from having baby faces. But I think this is what WWE does better than AEW. The WWE, even though it may not be a good face, I think who's a face and who's a heel across the board. Across the board for everyone. AEW, there's a lot of guys that you like. I don't know, Dark Order. All the guys in Dark Order. Are they heels or are they faces? I don't know. And there's like 25 of them.
Well, that's a little tough because the Brody Lee thing is such an anomaly in how to book it, because it's like he was the leader of a heel faction when he passed away. So they can't really be heels, right? It's too soon. It's too fresh. They can't really be heels. They're associated with Hangman Page, who's definitely a babyface. So it's a little tough.
And like the entire gimmick they did last night, where like, oh, I'm gonna watch me get away from the grave, whatever, the coffin drop, where someone falls and he just moves. They making a joke out of it, and it's like, okay, I thought you guys were heels,
right?
And you're doing stuff that is almost just as bad as any WWE face does.
Yeah, I think that AEW does do a good job of saying who's a babyface but who's a heel, but then they wrestle too often, face versus face, heel versus heel. They fuck with that dynamic too much in the actual matches. And that's what I was saying earlier about it being opponent based. It's like one of the main reasons wrestling became kayfabe in the first place was because they could manipulate the audience's emotion on who to cheer for, who not to cheer for, and that made it more compelling as to watching a match. And now you see UFC fighters do it. They, boxers did it. Muhammad Ali leaned in to being the shit-talking heel. You know what I mean? And it drummed up way more interest in his fights, to the point where he did it so well and he backed up his shit talking that he became a hero. He became the people's champion, thus turning babyface. Same thing in the UFC, you know, that Colby Covington guy who leans into kind of being a dick and, you know, anti-liberalism and all this other stuff. And it's like, it drums up more interest in his fights. And of course, Conor McGregor was the master of it. Floyd Mayweather, same thing, master of it. Everybody wanted to see him get his ass kicked. And I think that's another essential element of being a good babyface. We want you to be the guy to shut blank up. Who's the guy?
Doug?
Say what?
You talk about Doug to shut Doug up? Annie's dog?
No, not the dog.
On my screen, it looks like you're pointing exactly to Annie, so I thought you was definitely talking about her dog.
No. We love Doug here. But like, you know, for the guys who are the biggest heels, who do we most want to see to kick their ass? Who do we most want to see kick MJF's ass in AEW? Who do we most want to see kick Kenny Omega's ass in AEW? Who do we most want to see kick Seth Rollins' ass? Who do we most want to see kick Roman Reigns' ass? Those are the guys that need to be able to fill those spots. But if they don't look credible on the way to challenging them, then you're not going to be invested. You're not going to care. And the whole art of being a babyface is going to be lost. What I'm saying is we need Ricky Morton. We need the one guy in the Rock and Roll Express to get the heat on and then overcome in the end.
You know, I think no matter how you look, the rosters have guys who can be the babyface.
Sure.
And it's filled with guys who can be the babyface. It's just like we've said multiple times, it's on creative to make it happen. Because I think the roster is filled with guys who's able to, even if they're reading from a script, if the script is good, they have the talent to make it happen.
Right. I'm going to ask you guys, who is your top babyface wrestler of all time? And if you could pick the top babyface for the big two right now, AEW or WWE, who would, if you had the book, if you were booking the territory, booking the town, if you were the guy, if you were Vince McMahon, Bill Watts, you know, Eddie Graham, whoever, who would you pick to be your top babyface right now? I'll give you guys a moment to think, and I'll give you my answer. Probably the best babyface of all time to me would be...
It's Shawn Michaels. You know you're going to say Shawn Michaels.
I never liked Shawn that much as a babyface. I thought he did his best work as a heel. As the initial Heartbreak Kid with Sherry, that 92 Shawn was amazing. The fucking D-Generation X Shawn Michaels. The only babyface Shawn that really worked was when he returned to fight Triple H after retiring. And then, you know, after that, he was better as a heel when he was challenging Undertaker at WrestleMania and stuff like that. Shawn always was better as a heel. Weirdly enough, I'm probably going to pick Sting. I think Sting is a character who inherently is babyface. I can't think of a even when he did the crazy Joker version of himself in Impact, where he was smearing the red paint over his white paint and he was fucking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, he was still a babyface. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't think heel Sting really works. You know what I'm saying? That's why he was such a perfect foil to Hollywood Hogan in the NWO. And the story that they told about Surfer Sting, you know, who was the guy who took down the Four Horsemen and was always the face of the company, always the top guy, always the top baby face. For him to be mistrusted because the NWO had this fake Sting running around, planting seeds of doubt in the rest of the roster and the audience. And for WCW not to trust him. And then he returns as the emo Sting, and still comes through to save the company from Hogan. Like that is great babyface stuff right there. And Sting always had an edge to him. So it's like, to me, the character Sting is probably the best babyface of all time. I hear Hogan in the 80s. I hear Steve Austin. I hear The Rock. I hear all that. But as like just a pure babyface wrestler, definitely Sting. Who I would probably put it on now as my face of the company for WWE, I'd go Matt Riddle. Look at the fucking guy. I am not sexually attracted to men, but I can see where he's got the sex appeal, he's got the hair, he's got the look. You know what I'm saying? He's got a legitimate background in it, and I just think that he'd have a lot of appeal if he was the main babyface that they were pushing. Honorable mention to Bobby Lashley. I'm very into the idea of them doing a double turn at WrestleMania. And then for AEW, I still think it needs to be Cody at this point. Cody's the guy. Like, Cody's the guy who gave away his main event, ability right from the get-go, basically, in the company. He's never won the AEW World Championship. He's promised to never challenge for it again. If you did an angle where they're out of options and Tony Khan is like, Cody, I need you to beat Omega, then you have an out for that whole storyline, and then, he can be your guy.
Cool.
This concludes my book report on
Your thesis. This concludes your thesis on baby faces. Josh?
I'm between two people for my best babyface of all time. I said Bret Hart. I think Bret Hart is up there, but I think this other guy beats him. I think Dusty Rhodes was the epitome of a babyface. He was everything you wanted in a babyface. He got sympathy. He fucking could not wrestle physically in the ring at all. But
what he was.
Yeah, but I think he's the epitome of the greatest babyface to exist. Because I think without Dusty, who knows what Flair would be as a heel without Dusty. And I think a heel is only as good as the face that pushes him. So I think Dusty is definitely up there in the best face. Face currently in the company. It's a shame I can't say Tamina. Tamina should be the best face in the company.
Why do you say that?
Because Tamina's great. Okay.
Really?
she's an overrated woman, female, and I can't even say this with a straight face.
I was about to say.
I really need a Tyler for this Tamina joke.
Hilarious.
Currently in the roster, I enjoy Drew McIntyre a lot as a face. I think he's fucking great. He's done great work as a face of the company. And AEW, I don't know. I really don't know for AEW. Because I don't really like any of the faces in AEW.
You don't like Paige?
Page? No, I've never been a Hangman Page. Even in New Japan, I never really was a big Hangman Page guy.
What about Darby?
This is my issue with AEW, and I hope it changes because I hope AEW finds their own vision for guys and not just copying what was done in WCW or what was done in the past. Because Darby's coming off as just a straight up copy of Sting, which I don't I want to have something original in it, and I guess it will have to be Cody because there's just nothing, you know.
No heels that you would just turn babyface, like a Brian Cage or somebody like that they're teasing turning babyface. Sammy Guevara, who I think is going to make an amazing babyface.
I think Lance Archer could possibly be a great babyface as with Edge. You know, I think he has potential to be something. You know, Sean Spears will never be anything, so you gotta take that name out of the fucking.
Sean Spears.
Leave fucking Ty Dillinger alone, Annie.
So I would have to go with Bret Hart for all time. That was the question, right?
Yeah.
You know, he was an international hero. He changed a lot of things for you know, at the time, you know, for his size and how you know, he's around all these big guys like Hulk Hogan and stuff like that, and it kind of changed the basis of like what type of wrestlers Vince McMahon wanted to finally put on the roster. And you know, obviously he's one of the best technical wrestlers in the ring aside from that, but he was one of those heroes that you know, as a babyface, that you always wanted to fucking root for. I think Sting was a good choice that you picked, and I almost went with him, but I'm going with Bret Hart on this one. As much as I love Stone Cold, I always look at Stone Cold more of I've said this before, as an anti-hero versus you know, face or heel. So Bret Hart for all time. For the rosters right now, currently, tough one for me.
I should also say it. You know, we're so fucking set in our ways as idiots, but it doesn't. It definitely doesn't have to be a male wrestler to be your baby face.
Oh, then it's Shotzi.
Oh, hey, for WWE, yeah, let's just go with that, because you know, all I'm saying is you've never seen the both of us in the same room before. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, she posted a picture today with her and Ember Moon that I almost took my pants off.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say I probably was doing the same thing because they did that really hot fucking photo shoot. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just go with her. I was gonna go with Drew McIntyre, but since you know, you did make a valid point that it doesn't have to be male. You know, she's kind of a fresh face in WWE right now. I like her attitude and everything she's got going for her. I'd probably still love her, maybe even more if she became a heel, but I guess I'll go with that, with Shotzi. My sister from another mister that I want to fuck. Anyways, totally different topic there.
Can we do an entire episode of wrestlers we want to fuck?
Yeah,
I mean, we could do that. You know, we could put that on Patreon.
This whole show.
I'll just talk in great detail. Never mind.
All right.
To all the ladies. And I guess for AEW, I'm gonna go with Darby Allen, just because I relate to his I don't want to say character, but his what?
His angst.
Yes. And the fact that, you know, in that group thread when you were talking about how he what did he do with his own blood? I forgot. He drew like
a painting in his own blood when he proposed to Priscilla Kelly.
Yeah, when you told me that, and I was like, did he really do that? That like totally won me over, dude. But you know, he's always talking about how like, oh yeah, you know, I was the guy that was always bullied, and that was me, man. You know what I'm saying? And he's kind of like one of those guys that you just want to fucking root for, the one to defeat all odds. You know what I'm saying? So that would have to be my choice for AEW.
He seems like a good guy. He takes you to an MCR concert. You go to Comic-Con that weekend. He's gonna eat your ass. Like it's a whole like Darby's he's a good guy.
He's got Sting on his side, man. Come on. So,
yeah, man. I think what we've all kind of come to the conclusion of here is that it's definitely a lost art being a great baby face, and which is sad because at the times of greatest prosperity for wrestling in general, you know, a strong baby face is the cornerstone of the business. You know, look, and no disrespect to Ric Flair, who for years and years was the traveling heel world champion in the NWA, that the local hero would try to best. But, you know, even he would turn babyface if the top guy in the territory was a heel. So, you know, it's important. It's important. I know that in this dark, cynical society that we tend to root for the bad guys more these days, and a lot of times the bad guys are more fun. But I think what's missing in pro wrestling, which is what really gets you to tune in and invest on a week-to-week basis, as corny as it may sound, is hope. You want to have hope. You want to think that good can quote-unquote good can conquer in the end. You want to think that hard work can pay off. You want to think that if you just persevere, that you'll be rewarded at the end. And it just makes you feel good. And that's kind of what, you know, WrestleMania has always built to every single year. Like, what's going to be that feel-good moment of seeing somebody overcome, somebody triumph, somebody who's been ignored, finally getting rewarded with that championship belt. That's what it's all built on, man. And if you're not going to give us people that we can invest in to have those moments with, business is going to keep declining, is what it is, man. But who do you, if of our group of people here, who do we think is a heel baby face? Do we think Josh is a heel?
I'm an asshole. We know that part.
100%.
I don't think anyone has given that much thought.
I would definitely say that Annie is probably a tweener.
I'm an anti-hero, baby.
Well, I think Annie's a babyface that has edge, because I feel like Annie's a nice person and like a good person, but she will snap on you.
That's what I'm saying. I think that she,
no matter on one small thing, and she'll fucking go off on you.
I'll fucking snap your neck, bro.
What's needed? Yeah, that's why I said tweener. She can be what she needs to be for the situation.
Tyler's definitely the face of this group, I feel like.
Oh, he's a baby face all the way. Come on.
100%.
100%. Sweet Canadian boy. Not myself. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm a baby face for the most part. I got some English things. I'm a bit of a perv. It's fine. It happens.
It happens.
But tell us what you think. All of the people out there who listen to this, our whole dissertation on the lost art of being a babyface. Who do you guys think is the greatest babyface of all time? Who do you think that being a babyface is an important part of the wrestling business in a modern context? Let us know all your thoughts. Hit us at WrestleFetish on Twitter. Hit us at WrestleFetish on Instagram and on Facebook as well. WrestleFetish Podcast on Facebook. Let us know all your thoughts on the topic. Let us know what's going on. But until we hear from them, where can they find you guys in the meantime?
Annie, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Annie.
No, you go ahead. Good. You first. No, you.
The babyface move. Go ahead, Josh.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going to interrupt you.
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, at Josh Martin Comic Con of Things, I am currently training because I want to be like Parker Boudreaux. You know, my goal is to look like him. I want to look like a destroyer of gods.
I'm into it. Annie?
Oh God, he looks so good. Not a sexual way. He just looks like a fucking.
Oh no, I think we know wrestler numero uno.
I am excited to see him in the ring.
Let's get it, Annie.
You can find me. I'll make it easier for all of you guys listening. I have too many social media links, so just go to anniecruz.com. anniecruz.com/links. That has all my Instagram, my Twitter, everything, including my Twitch.
You can find me at Chris_please. I'm participating in the 30 Days of Wrestling teas there, putting up some heat for all you people to envy. And And yeah, if you want to hear us do our weekly review, go to patreon.com/WrestleFetish. Join us. The Fetish Fantasy League is popping off. Even though I just went to last place after Fastlane, but whatever. Fuck it. Whatever. Okay? WWE's booking's been shit.
You made some crazy picks. It's all on you.
Hey, it is what it is. I take a risk. I put my dick out there. You know what I mean? That's what you're supposed to do in life. Let them see it from time to time. Let them know how many inches you got. But we'll catch you guys next time, and we'll show you some more inches. Have fun. Be safe out there. And above all, stay horny. You guys believe that? For wrestling,